Today we will discuss the concept of resolution in propositional logic. You might have seen things like P, it is a proposition, its negation is like this. Similarly, Q is any other proposition and its negation is this. So you might have seen these things. I'll discuss the concept of resolution here. So any premise that is of the form, any form, you may consider this like that. Okay. So in case of resolution, what we'll do, we will convert it in clausal form. Now, clausal form means in terms of disjunctions. So how we can convert this P imply Q into disjunctions? So negation of P and Q. So this is how we convert it, and this it is basically it's not a disjunction. So how we can convert this? So we just separate them. So negation of P and Q separately. We will not consider them together. We'll divide them into two parts. Okay. So this is converting into the clausal form. Any other example we can take? Suppose you want to convert this into clausal form. So what you can do? So consider this part. So you can write it like negation of P and Q and negation of distinction R. So next what you can do, negation of P, negation disjunction Q, disjunction R. So this is a clausal form. Okay, this is the desired clausal form. So first step is to convert every premise or every statement into the clausal form. And sometimes what I was telling you, if P disjunction Q, this is valid, we don't have to change this. But suppose the statement is like that. It's not a disjunction here, you can see. So we can write it like either in this way or in curly brackets like that. So this is the first step that we have to do. So suppose one more example we can consider. Suppose you have P, okay, and suppose here is negation of P, and so what we can do, the negation of P, Q, and this is R. So what we will get, okay, so we can write it like you can see here we have disjunction, here we don't have disjunction. So the first step is to convert into the clausal form. Now suppose if you want to prove something in resolution, suppose we have two premises, P implies Q and R implies S. This is first statement, and second statement is P R. So you just note them down somewhere. So this is, consider this first one. So negation of P and Q, disjunction Q, and negation of R, disjunction S. So since here we have disjunction, here we have disjunction, but here we don't have disjunction. So what we can do, we can separate them. And second one is, so this is the first thing, okay, and another one is this one. So here we don't have to change anything because it's already a disjunction of P and R. So we just write down. So we have three uh, uh, clausal forms: 1, 2, and 3. This 3. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Now we'll prove a conclusion based on these 3. So I'll write down them again. Okay, first first one was, second one was, and last one was. Okay, so one more thing I would like to tell you, that just leave this for a minute. Okay, if suppose we have in resolution, if suppose we have negation of P x1, this is uh, any of the any proposition x2, and so on, and another one is P y1, y2, and so on. Now if we combine them, then these two will be cancelled off, and we are left with x1, x2, so on, comma, y1, y2. So this is the remaining set. This is what we have in case of resolution. Another example you can take: negation of P and R, suppose, and negation of Q and negation of R. Now if you combine them, these two will go off. So what you are left with: negation of P and negation of Q. One more example we can consider. Suppose you have negation of P and say T, and here you have T, negation of T. So you just combine them. This is first one, this is second clausal form. So if you combine them, these two will be cancelled off. You are left with negation of P. Okay, one more example we can consider: negation of P and disjunction Q, and here we have negation of Q, disjunction S, suppose. So this is first clausal form, this is second clausal form. So if you combine them, Q will go off, and you are left with this. Okay, so this is your uh, conclusion. The set can also be empty, like this. Okay, suppose you have a negation of P and P, so you have null set here. Okay, means no conclusion. This concept is basically used in proving something. For example, you have set of statement clausal form, say S1, which is like negation of P and Q, and you have S2 like negation of Q and P. Okay, and suppose the conclusion is and S3 is R. Okay, and we say that from all these statements, 3 statements, they are already in clausal forms, so we don't have to change them. Okay, so we say that conclusion is R. Now we have to prove this. Okay, so consider, in order to prove, we will consider this a negation of the conclusion every time. If we are going to prove that the conclusion is this, then we will consider its negation. So negation of R. Now we will use we have three statements, S1, S2 and S3. Out of these we will use any one statement so that the effect of this will be cancelled out. So we can choose this S3. So R. So we have null. So conclusion is R. Yes, it is true. Now suppose if we don't have S3, we can consider some another example. Suppose S1, S2. So suppose here we have negation of Q, disjunction R, okay, and another one is Q, and we say that from these two statements which are already in clausal form, so we don't need to change them, we don't have to change these to clausal form, already disjunction, okay. So if suppose C is conclusion, suppose we say that this is the conclusion that we have from these two statements. So how we can prove that? So this is a conclusion. I have told you to consider the negation of this. So negation of R. Okay. So we will choose the statement which has R so that the effect of negation of R and R will be cancelled out. So negation of Q, this one we will consider. So combining these two, this will be cancelled out with this. So we are left with negation of Q. And next statement we have S2. So Q. So combine them, we have null set. So it means our conclusion is true, it is not false. Okay, so this is the concept of resolution here. It's very simple. Another example like what we were doing earlier, uh, suppose we have P2 Q and R2 S. This is statement 1. Okay, statement 2 is P R. Okay, and we say after combining them we have a conclusion Y. What is that Y? What is this Y? Okay, we have to prove this. So just after converting this is already in clausal form since we consider only the disjunctions, okay, and this will be converted, this P implies Q, this statement 1 will be converted into okay. Since here we have disjunction, but here we don't have disjunction, so what we will do, we will separate them. So negation of P and another one will be, so these two statement S1 and S2, we have these two statements S1 and S2, out of which S1 is divided into these two parts, into these clausal forms, and S2 is already is in clausal form, so we have three clausal forms, this one, and this one, this one, and this one. So we have three clausal form. Now using these three clausal form we will find out this Y. Okay, so let me write down. Now we have to work with these three statements only, so let me write down them again. Okay, so we are okay, so we have these three statements, so we will prove what is Y. We'll find out what is Y, not prove. So here we can see, here we have negation of P and here we have P, so we'll combine these two statements. Okay, so from them this P will go off and we are left with Q disjunction R. Okay, now we are left with this statement only. These two statements has been used and we are left with this statement only. So apply this. Now combining this and this, what we have, r will go off since here we have r and here we have negation of r, so we are left with q disjunction s. Okay, so this is simply y. Okay, so this is very simple, and you can try a few more examples from some other books, and it's very easy. The basic concept has been discussed here. Thank you very much. And uh, one more thing, that resolution based on propositional logic. So if you don't know the concept of propositional logic, then study the basics of this propositional logic. And uh, like for example, if you don't know how this has been converted into this, so this is in basic of propositional logic, so you can go through this from your from some book or from basics of propositional logic. Here we were focused only on the resolution topic. Thank you very much.